Hello and welcome to a special Decision 2014 edition of Go Fraser Valley. In this week's episode, we focus on the major issues riding in your community, informing you on what to consider when you enter the polls. I'm Jonathan Horst.
And I'm Alexandria McFarlane. We start the program off in one of the biggest municipalities in the Upper Fraser Valley, Chilliwack. With an estimated population of 80,000 residents, these candidates have a lot to think about in this upcoming election. Jonathan Horst has more.
Chilliwack is the urban center for the Upper Fraser Valley, a small city nestled in between extensive farmland. It has lots of promise. In a recent evaluation by the Commercial Real Estate Development Association, Chilliwack was found to be the best place to invest. It's great news, but the upcoming city council still does have a few problems to solve. One of the biggest and most visible of issues right now is one that people have been talking about for years. Downtown. People who have spent their entire lives living in Chilliwack have witnessed their downtown sadly transform from a bustling city center to a gravel parking lot with crime issues. Though the parking lot is here for a reason. Over the past 6 years, the city has been trying to accelerate the area's redevelopment by slowly acquiring the Irwin block, to later sell it to a developer to build a mixed-use complex.
The city of Chilliwack did not own property until quite recently. It's a bold move to buy property. It really is. But oh my gosh, I am so excited about downtown. Of course, when they tell me it's going to be 7 to 8 years, I try to be patient, but it's really difficult to do that. I think what has been really great for me is when I go to the Urban Development Institute meetings and I talk to developers and they're asking me questions about the downtown. They're asking me, when are we going to put it on the market? When can they start putting designs forward for us to consider?
Honestly, I have no problems with that concept, right? The issues I would have would be how is the building architecturally designed? Will the actual architecture reflect the identity of Chilliwack versus the identity of, say, Vancouver? And then the whole accessibility, right? I mean, when people come to downtown, how easy is it to move around? Where they can put their cars? Should we even have cars in the downtown? And probably the most critical one before any of this business can actually occur is crime.
Crime is an issue that no city is without. And unfortunately, over the past 4 years, crime has slightly increased here, which hasn't helped the stigma of downtown. A recent double homicide is fresh in citizens' minds, as well as the fact that theft from cars is still very prevalent. The big challenge, however, is dealing with prolific offenders.
When we think about crime, we usually think about RCMP, and we usually think about boots on the ground. And boots on the ground are very, very important. They're also very costly. We've given the RCMP all of the officers that they have asked for, so I'm very pleased that we were able to do that. The second thing, it has to be about prevention. I think really there's so many aspects to crime prevention, and a lot of it is just remembering that there are people out there, and people need the help that we can give them.
We can increase the police force, or we can increase social support, and both are perfectly viable based on who the criminal is. There are some incredibly violent people in the world, and I think that a first response with the police force or emergency responders is perfectly appropriate. And then there's people who are criminalized not because of who they are, but more because of the circumstance they find themselves in. And I think it would be doing that particular person a disservice to incarcerate them for just being out of the circuit, so to speak. So realistically, I want to do both.
Chilliwack is going to grow, no doubt about that. But how it's going to grow will be a future issue. Confined by the agricultural land reserve, Chilliwack cannot sprawl out. So there are two options: develop up the mountains, an expensive proposition, or the more preferred route, infill, taking an older home on a larger lot and dividing it. It's what was outlined in the 2040 official community plan that was passed by council this year.
I would discourage it. And I would discourage it because part of the culture of what Chilliwack is for me and for a lot of people is this idea that I can have a house and not look into my neighbor's backyard every day. The use of space is really important, right? It can really define who people are, and I would much rather go up.
There's a difference between good planning and shoehorning. And sometimes there are developers who will come in And when we talk about highest and best use of land, they forget the best use of land. And they come forward with proposals that we simply cannot support. We have to think about people living in those neighborhoods, you know? We really want to make sure that we have smart planning, not just growth that is not controlled.
Also running for mayor is Cameron Hull. And those are just a few of the top election issues in the city of Chilliwack.